This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll experience the spirit of Pacific Palisades going through fires over the years, featuring a heartfelt interview with the incredible Stephen McGhee, a resident who lived through the most recent fire and emerged with a story of courage, healing, and hope.
Such a great question, and I'll probably continue to peel back layers on the answer, but, it's heartbreaking. This is where wherever you go in the world, you come back home to, and it symbolizes safety, security. To your point, there's a lot of things that you can replace, and there's some things you can never replace. And those things you think about over time, but it's such a feeling of loss. It's a feeling of betrayal. I wasn't angry. I was just deeply sad, and my wife felt the same. Like we had hope. And now that we look at it, we're months out now. I think we can talk more about this maybe later. But there's a part of me that's grateful that our home was burned to the ground because there is no community in Pacific Palisades.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to experience the spirit of Pacific Palisades? Pacific Palisades is one of those rare places where the city surrenders to nature. With its winding canyon roads, eucalyptus-lined trails, and homes perched on the edge of the world, it's easy to forget how close you are to the heartbeat of Los Angeles. But beauty, especially wild beauty, often comes with a cost. The story of fire in the Palisades is not new. It's part of the land's memory. Long before there were mansions with ocean views or winding streets named after Roman emperors, the Tongva people lived in this area for thousands of years. They understood the rhythms of nature, including fire. In fact, they used controlled burns to renew the land. But in modern times, with development and climate change, the relationship to fire has become more volatile, unpredictable, fast, and dangerous. The first major modern fire that shook the Palisades came in 1938, when the area was still mostly wild canyons and scattered homes. As more people moved in, building dream homes along the cliffs and canyons, fires became an increasing threat. In 1978, one of the most destructive wildfires in Pacific Palisades history, swept through the Santa Monica Mountains, including Santa Ynez Canyon. Fanned by the fierce Santa Ana winds, the fire moved with terrifying speed, ultimately destroying around 30 homes and damaging many others. Residents still recall the thick black smoke pouring down the hillsides and the eerie orange glow that lit up the night sky. It was a sobering wake-up call for the community, a reminder of the ever-present wildfire danger in this region, a threat that has resurfaced time and again over the decades. The 1993 fire, sometimes called the Old Topanga Fire, didn't burn directly through Pacific Palisades, but its proximity was terrifying. Over 350 homes in Topanga, Malibu, and the surrounding areas were lost. Many Palisadians evacuated, packed their cars with photo albums, pets, and whatever treasures they could carry. That fire seared itself into local memory. Then came October 21, 2019. It was a Monday morning, and a fire sparked in the hillside above Palisades Drive, a familiar ignition point. The wind was strong. Within hours, the Palisades fire had consumed over 40 acres. Evacuations were swift. Helicopters thundered overhead, dropping water as flames crept dangerously close to homes. Miraculously, no homes were lost that day, thanks to the fast work of firefighters and the community's preparation. One of the recent incidents in May 2021 wasn't started by nature. It was arson. The Topanga fire burned over 1,200 acres just on the edge of the Palisades. The whole town waited in quiet suspense. Once again, heroic fire crews and favorable weather patterns prevented the worst. Still, the land bore the blackened scars. And then, just when we thought we might be catching a breath, January 2025 brought one of the most devastating wildfires in recent memory. The Palisades fire ignited on January 7, 2025, in the hills above Temescal Canyon, amid an unreasonably dry winter and powerful Santa Ana winds. The blaze rapidly spread, ultimately scorching 23,448 acres and destroying or severely damaging over 6,800 structures in Pacific Palisades and surrounding areas. The fire was fueled by months of parched vegetation and hurricane-force winds. Entire neighborhoods were evacuated, and the skies over Sunset Boulevard turned a haunting shade of gray-orange. It took nearly 5 days to contain the fire, and the emotional toll was immense. For many residents, it was a reminder of just how fragile peace can be in the face of nature's force. And yet, even in the ashes, there is hope. The Palisades is a true place of resilience. Living in Pacific Palisades is a dance with nature's beauty and its unpredictability. People here know what it means to live close to the land, to fall asleep to the sound of coyotes, and wake up to morning mist rolling off the ocean. They know fire is part of the story, but so is rebuilding. So is love. So is community. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Palisades will renew itself, stronger, wiser, and ever more connected to the land it calls home. And here we are. Welcome to Pacific Palisades. It is so special to have Stephen McGhee here with me. Stephen McGhee's experience includes a career in financial services, advanced degrees in consciousness, health, and healing, and more than 30 years advising leaders on personal, professional, and planetary change. Stephen has done just about everything one can in the leadership space. keynote speaking, strategic planning, running board meetings, creating culture change, and more. He's an entrepreneur, author, and filmmaker, and he has led experiential leadership cohorts like climbing Mount Aconcagua and Class 5 whitewater excursions on Rio Futaleufú in Chile. Stephen's personal journey has revealed a universal truth. Leadership isn't just about achievement, it's about personal sovereignty. This combination creates the true bottom line: mastery in leadership and mastery in life. Stephen currently lives in Southern California with his wife Veronica and his family. Please check out his website www.mcgheeleadership.com and please follow him on Facebook. Today, Stephen lends his voice to the story of resilience, sharing how he found strength, meaning, and a new beginning in the wake of unimaginable loss during Pacific Palisades fire. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Maria. It's nice to be with you today.
Oh my God, Stephen, it's so nice to have you as my guest today on the podcast. I was really looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. Thank you for your willingness to do this and to serve in this way. I love it.
No, of course, of course. And I do have a feeling that it will be very poignant because we'll be discussing some, very heartbreaking in a way and very disturbing events that happened on January 7, 2025. Thank you for willing to speak about that.
I'm happy to. It's been quite a journey, a daunting journey to say the least, but it's been rife with also many blessings. We've seen both sides of humanity through this tragedy. We've seen the best of man and womankind, and we've seen the absolute worst. So it's been quite an interesting situation to be in personally.
Yes, I can imagine. So, Stephen, maybe you could take us back to January 7. Could you walk us through that day?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. And it's interesting that we're quite a few months out from January 7th as we record this, but it's still very present that morning because I awakened early, as I often do, 5:36 a.m. And it was almost every morning my wife Veronica and I would sit out on our back patio and watch the sun come up over the back ravine of our home. We were up on a ravine on Los Leones Trail and where the Self-Realization Fellowship is in the Pacific Palisades. And on this morning, as I was getting our coffee ready, I stepped outside and there were just these intense winds, and I'm an athlete. I'm a former climber. I shouldn't say former. I might climb again one day, but I'm a climber. And so I know wind, and these were heavy winds. And so I opted to sit inside and have our coffee that day. And we went about our morning, and I had a few business things to attend to around 9 a.m. And sometime around, I guess it might have been around 10:30 a.m. on that morning on January 7th, my wife came in and she said, "I'm running down to Starbucks. Can I get you something?" I said, "Yeah, get me a latte. Bring me up a coconut latte," which I love. And she went down, came back up, and I had a business call at 11 a.m. And she came in my office at 10 minutes till 11. And she brought my latte in and she said, "I was just down at Starbucks and I smelled smoke." And of course, living in this area where, her more than me, she's a longtime Los Angeles person. I'm from Colorado originally, but the smell of smoke was something we were aware of. And I just said, "Well, honey, keep an eye on it." And I went ahead and did my call from 11 to 11:30. I came out at 11:30 and she was in the backyard and she was literally filming smoke on the ridge, plumes of smoke. And I said, "Honey, don't you think we ought to get out of here?" She said, "Well, I don't see any flames yet, and I think they got it under control." And within that 60 seconds, Maria, I saw a flame rise up on the top of the ridge. But what was most scary and tragic was the wind picked up, and now you've got 8, 9 embers in the air landing in the ravine. And instead of one flame on the top of the ridge, now you've got 8 pretty full-blown fires. So we knew we were in trouble. We watched the choppers as we were starting to pack our things. We watched the choppers really be confused about where to drop because there were so many fires now in the ravine. Within 10 minutes of that, there was literally a fire in my backyard, lots of smoke, embers coming in the house. We had our two dogs, our lovely housekeeper Tita was there. So my goal at that point was just to get out of the house. We got very little, Maria. We got our computers, we got some legal documents, but all of our clothes, all of my wife's jewelry, gone in the fire. And it wasn't until days later that we knew our house had actually gone to the ground, but more on that later.
Right, right. Like, wow. So you evacuate, and I assume you go to a hotel or to a friend's place?
Well, we think we're going to go to a friend's place, but the fire is now spreading so fast that the offer of staying at our friend's place is now also in jeopardy. So we don't have a place to stay in Los Angeles, at least readily. So, we both have electric cars, so we were struggling to get our cars charged because everyone was doing the same thing at this point. A lot of traffic, a lot of sirens, a lot of confusion, a lot of anger in the air, people honking, a lot of negativity in the air. The fire was angry. And so we ended up driving through that afternoon and into the evening to Westlake Village to stay with my wife's son, Derek.
Right. It's interesting how you mentioned like the fire was angry and the energy around was angry because, we know that if there is anger underneath anger, there is always pain, right? And probably there was so much fear as well that people were experiencing something they never encountered like that, to that extent in their lives. And maybe that's why they were angry. Would you think so?
Yeah, it's hard to know, Maria, why that was the feeling. I think that deep down in the hearts of so many people, we see things on the news every day, but I think a lot of us often think it's not going to be me. I'm not going to be the one with the disease or the financial catastrophe or the fire or the hurricane. And so, since this happened on January 7th, while I have had hard times in my life and I feel like I'm a very compassionate man, I think that this has brought me to a new level of open heartedness and compassion for anybody that's going through a hard time, regardless of what it is. So, and I think, that particular area, there was a long time where people thought something like this could happen, and then it did. So maybe people in the fire itself was finally ready to, to be angry, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting. And then, of course, you did not find out that your house was gone right away. So how long did it take you to find out? How many days passed?
Yeah, let's see. January 7th was on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, we knew we had an assistant of ours who was somehow miraculously able to get up there. Of course, the Palisades fire is still at almost no containment. You've got a couple other fires in Los Angeles now, which I know you've interviewed people on. But having said that, it was Thursday. We got a video of what used to be the house. Interestingly, Maria, the front gate, which is wooden, was wide open to what used to be the house, and it was unscathed along with a few other things.
Wow. Wow.
Fires are really wild, what they can do, like how powerful they are, but also in our neighborhood, the home just next door to us, that was owned by a very famous actor. Her home was fully intact, not a scratch on it. And then the home to our right was burned to the ground like ours. So it's just very interesting how the fire moved, the drafts of the fire, and how some homes were more fire retardant than others.
Right, right. Like, wow. So after you saw that video that your assistant magically was able to make for you, what did you feel? Because home is so much more than just walls, and it's so much more than like all the memorabilia that we keep inside. So it is our stories, our memories, and dreams. What do you think was the hardest part of losing your home?
Such a great question, and I'll probably continue to peel back layers on the answer, but it's heartbreaking. This is where wherever you go in the world, you come back home to. And it symbolizes safety, security. To your point, there's a lot of things that you can replace, and there's some things you can never replace. And those things you think about over time, and but it's such a feeling of loss. It's a feeling of betrayal. I wasn't angry. I was just deeply sad, and my wife felt the same. Like we had hope. And now that we look at it, we're months out now. I think we can talk more about this maybe later, but there's a part of me that's grateful that our home was burned to the ground because there is no community in Pacific Palisades. There's no walking around the neighborhood. There's just a war zone, which is more horrific than the news typically sensationalizes. Like the news was there, all the mainstream channels were there, but in this particular case, they did not sensationalize it. It was actually way worse than they reported it.
Wow. Wow. Do you think that this gratitude that you just mentioned has become like the most unexpected source of strength or comfort for you in the aftermath?
Maria, as a person who's teaching and learning leadership over 30 years now, one of the gifts of my work is I'm around amazing people. And one of the teachings that I adhere to and practice myself, and one that I work with on other people, is simply to use everything, capital everything, for your learning, growth, and advancement. So with a principle like that, you don't get to walk around and pick and choose. You don't get to walk around and go, well, I like this, but I don't like that. So there's a great surrender in it. There's this moment of, I can't control this. I can't control what happened. And there's a grief with it, as we talked about home a moment ago, and the deep grief of, we just had a beautiful New Year's Eve party. I just had a bunch of guys over for, football weekend, the weekend before the fire. Memories, moments, friends and family and community, a spirituality to home and where the heart is. But I think that principle, use everything for your learning, growth, and advancement, is a potent one. And that came to me from a dear, like a father of mine named John Roger. He taught me that, and I've used it ever since.
Wow. So that must have played like a really big role for you in navigating this personal crisis, because it is always easier to teach people certain principles that also sound true to you, but then when you find yourself in a situation like that, and then again you have worked with like some of the world's top leaders, but then finding yourself in this situation and having to use your own principle, your own philosophy, this is a completely different game. It's like you really have to step up in your own philosophy.
I really did, Maria. And there is also an interesting twist to all that, which is, sometimes people, sometimes leaders, sometimes myself can pivot to what I would call toxic positivity. And toxic positivity would look like a pretension that you're not going through a shit show, that you're not going through a really hard frickin' time. And so I had to really balance that grief, to accept the daunting nature of what had happened, to be present with the living reality of our lives changed within 35 minutes. That's how fast it happened. You're waking up, and then by noon, your life is completely different. And this could happen in a million ways for all of us on any given day. So I believe, become resilient with life. We hopefully become more creative. We hopefully we become more grateful, but we can't skip over. My point here is we can't skip over the hardship. Grief and gratitude are kind of conflated. They kind of work together in an interesting way.
Yes.
From my experience. And that's what I experienced. And it did grow me, Maria. I don't know what will come from this exactly, but maybe something super powerful as I look out into the world and I go, how can I serve?
Yes, very true. Wow. This is very powerful. So, Stephen, when life strips everything away, it has a way of revealing what truly matters. What has this experience taught you about yourself and the essence of what it means to lead?
Thank you for the pause, because as I'm sitting here thinking of how to answer your great question, I realize that what I've learned is just that. I've learned to pause. Like, we as leaders, as human beings, we are running on what I would call automatic so much of the time. Like, we've got our plan. We've got our strategy. We've got our ideal scene for our marriage and our home and our kids and our money and our health and our wellness. And often in life, it just doesn't go to plan. So, what I've learned is resiliency. I've learned a deeper flexibility, which has translated into an inner strength, which has me pause. Like, my 3 words for 2 months have been, I don't know. How's this going to impact your business? I don't know. Where are you guys going to live? I don't know. How's the insurance going to pay? I don't know. What things are you going to replace? I don't know. How's this going to change you? Pause. Let's see.
Yes, the greatest wisdom is in this very short phrase, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the case here.
Yes, very, very true. So, Stephen, in your book, Get Real, you talk about breakthroughs in life and leadership. What was the breakthrough moment for you in this experience?
Interestingly, I mean, there have been many. I mean, I think there have been hundreds. But the first one I had was in the backyard when we saw the smoke and then we saw the flames. And there was this deep knowing, like, ooh, this is coming our way. The winds aren't switching. They're not switching. And watching the choppers not have a handle on the flames I mean, nobody could have. Like, it would have been, they would have had to know this was going to happen before time and have a plan for it, which they didn't know exactly when and what was going to happen. And, there were a lot of things going down at the same time. So what happened for me as a breakthrough moment was I froze. I froze in what to do. Like, you've got like maybe 20 minutes. And it turns out that my freezing, standing in the backyard, like not knowing what to do, was to our favor. Because I think if I wouldn't have done that and had that breakthrough moment, what it gave me was a moment to go, okay, what is most important? What's number one is us getting out of here safely without lung damage. Because my lungs were already compromised. You can't believe the smoke. Embers in the home, fire in the backyard, starting to go. So now it's like, okay, what's most important? And in that moment, the breakthrough moment was get us out safely. Our dogs, it's little things that mattered the most in that. And it was really the people and the relationships I have with the people that were in my home and my fur babies. That's what mattered most. And that, it's not like I didn't know that before, Maria, but I really got it slowed down. It's like slow motion in a situation like that. I think some of my training helped, but I was also freaking out. Like, I'm a pretty well-trained person. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been in a lot of weather situations up high on mountains where there's no oxygen. And so I'm a meditator. I do cold thermogenesis. I'm trained. And even I, in that moment, was like, I don't know what to do. But the breakthrough moment was toward relationship, towards love, towards the way of the heart. That's what mattered the most.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It absolutely makes sense. And I was going to ask you how this loss redefined your understanding of home. And I feel that what you shared right now really defines what home is, what most important is, like love and relationships and your furry babies. And this is home because it's not all about the walls.
It's not all about the walls. And the bottom line is while there's some grieving around a few things that I won't go into a lot of detail on, but just a few, things that had experiences around them.
Mm-hmm.
The thing nobody can ever take away from us is our love.
Mm-hmm.
And how we spend our lives loving ourselves and the people around us, no matter what. Nobody, not a fire, not a disease, can take away our love. Like, we can lose people in life, but we can still love them even when they're gone. Our relationships with other people are always inside of us, even when people are estranged. That's a tough one for folks. Like, what do you mean? I haven't talked to my dad in 20 years. You're telling me to love him? I'm like, you can if you want. So those things are impenetrable.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are irreplaceable. Those things are based in our choosing, and that can't be taken away. Love cannot be taken away. The way of the heart is established and impenetrable.
That is so true. And somehow you just responded to the last question I was going to ask you about, like, this one thought that you could leave us that could be the guiding principle that carried you through this whole experience. And you just responded to this question, not even knowing that I was going to ask you this.
Well, you have a masterful way of asking good questions. So maybe we got there somehow, some way, but it is the truth from my experience.
Yes, you absolutely pinned it down, because there is truly nothing else in life but love. And if there is no love in some place of our life, then we just need to go inside and see what it is that is blocking this little place. Because in the end, I strongly believe that the entire world that is around us is a reflection of what's inside. And this is something that truly never dies, never ever goes anywhere. We're all stuck in eternity here. So it's just, the world exists just for us to see what is inside of us. And if we focus on just love, and in your case, I mean, your process was so deep, it was so challenging, and you still were able to get to this place of, impenetrable love, as you said. It was just everlasting, eternal, and there is so much strength in you because of what you've been through. It's tangible. I can sense it.
No, I thank you. And I would just, for anybody listening, I would say we all have access to that inner strength. And my counsel for anyone interested in it would be, don't wait. Don't wait to love. Don't wait to be grateful. Don't wait to use your fine china or wear your new leather jacket or to go fly fishing with your kids or your son. We just never know. And I think it's nice to be comfortable in life. Like, it's nice to have routines and to have what I would call certainty. But there's also great value in getting out of our comfort zones and waking up early to see the sunrise, doing little things every day that are a stretch outside of what's normal to build that inner strength. My point, Maria, is I don't think it takes a fire. I think there's ways we can create it and enjoy our lives even more fully. Can you hear that, Maria? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And Stephen, thank you so much for sharing your life experience with us. And thank you for teaching your philosophy and the principles that you're bringing into the world. And thank you for not only teaching this, but also for being this, because it's so valuable for you just to be who you are and spreading it around yourself. We need more people like you.
Well, I'll receive your compliment, and I think it takes two. We created a beautiful conversation today that I hope will have value for anybody that takes the time to listen. I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you, Stephen, and I'm wishing you all the very best as you continue to create your new life with your wonderful wife, and let it be better than before.
I'm with you for that. Thank you. Let's do it.
Until next time.
Until next time. See you later, Maria.
See you later. Bye-bye,
Okay.
Stephen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for tuning in to feel and experience the spirit of Pacific Palisades with my special guest, Stephen McGhee. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California and check out my website, www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It's an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we'll journey to Toluca Lake, a neighborhood known for its timeless charm and cinematic history. We'll explore its quiet elegance, creative spirit, and the sense of sanctuary it offers in the heart of Los Angeles. So looking forward to seeing you there.
In the Mood for California. Feel the soul of Old Hollywood.